My mother-in-law, Linda, spent 3 years poisoning my marriage to her son, David. She faked medical emergencies to ruin our anniversaries, told David I was cheating with fabricated evidence, and convinced him to put our house in her name temporarily during my cancer treatment. When David filed for divorce believing her lies, Linda thought she'd won. She didn't know I'm a private investigator who'd been documenting everything. I exposed her lies, recovered my house, saved my marriage, and got her arrested for fraud. This is my revenge story. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you never miss revenge stories like this. My name is Jennifer Matthews, and I'm 58 years old. 3 years ago, my mother-in-law, Linda, almost destroyed my 32-year marriage. She lied, manipulated, and committed fraud to break David and me apart. She wanted her son back under her control and saw me as the obstacle. Linda underestimated one critical fact. I'm a licensed private investigator with 30 years of experience catching liars and fraudsters. This is how I caught her and made her pay for everything she did. David and I married when I was 26 and he was 28. We built a beautiful life together, raised 2 daughters, bought our dream home in Colorado, supported each other through careers and challenges. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it was strong. At least it was strong until Linda's husband died 5 years ago, and she became obsessed with controlling David's life again. After Linda's husband, George, died, she became increasingly dependent on David emotionally. At first, it seemed normal, a widow leaning on her son during grief. David visited her twice weekly, handled her finances, managed home repairs. I supported it completely because I understood grief. My own mother had died young, and I knew how devastating loss could be. But Linda's dependence evolved into something darker. She started calling David at all hours, claiming emergencies that didn't exist. She'd call at midnight saying she'd fallen and couldn't get up. Then when David rushed over, she'd be fine and claim she'd recovered. She called during our anniversary dinner claiming chest pains, forcing us to leave the restaurant and take her to the emergency room where doctors found nothing wrong. She did this repeatedly. Fake emergencies designed to interrupt our time together. The manipulation escalated dramatically when I was diagnosed with breast cancer 2 years ago. I was 56, terrified, and needed David's support more than ever. During my chemotherapy, Linda ramped up her interference. She told David I was too weak to handle stress and convinced him to put our house, the home we'd owned together for 20 years, into her name temporarily for asset protection during my treatment. David, exhausted from caring for me and worried about medical bills, agreed without fully thinking it through. Linda promised it was temporary and would protect our assets if medical costs bankrupted us. The moment the house transferred to her name, Linda's attitude changed. She started telling David I was faking how sick I was. She claimed I was exaggerating symptoms for attention. She said I was using cancer as an excuse to control him. Then Linda started the affair accusations. She told David she'd seen me having lunch with a man while David was at work. She claimed a neighbor had told her I had male visitors during the day. She showed David evidence, photos of me with a man she claimed was my lover. The photos were real, but completely innocent. They showed me with my oncologist during a follow-up appointment at a cafe near the hospital. Linda had followed me, photographed me with Dr. Stevens, and told David it was proof I was cheating. David was devastated. Between caring for me during cancer, managing his mother's constant demands, and now believing I was unfaithful, he broke. He filed for divorce. That's when I decided to fight back using every skill I'd developed during 30 years as a private investigator. I started documenting everything Linda did. I installed security cameras around our property and captured Linda coming to our house when David wasn't home, going through our mail and photographing financial documents. I tracked her phone records and discovered she'd been calling David's phone 50 to 60 times per day, far beyond what any reasonable parent would do. I hired another private investigator to follow Linda and document her activities. We discovered Linda was perfectly healthy and had been faking every emergency that sent David rushing to her house. The investigator captured video of Linda calling David claiming she'd fallen and injured herself, then standing up perfectly fine the moment she hung up the phone. She was manufacturing crises to control David's time and attention. I investigated the house transfer and discovered Linda had committed fraud. She'd told David the transfer was temporary and for asset protection, but the deed she'd filed made the transfer permanent with no mention of it being temporary. She'd also forged my signature on documents I'd never seen. I'd been heavily medicated during chemo when Linda claimed I'd signed papers, but I'd never actually signed anything. Linda had forged my signature to make the transfer look legitimate. I contacted a forensic document examiner who confirmed my signature on the deed was forged. Linda had committed forgery and fraud to steal our house. I also proved the affair allegations were completely fabricated. I obtained my complete medical records showing every appointment with Dr. Stevens. I got security footage from the cafe showing our conversation was clearly medical in nature. Dr. Stevens had printouts of test results on the table. I tracked down the neighbor Linda claimed had seen male visitors at our house and discovered this neighbor didn't exist. Linda had invented an entirely fictional witness. With 6 months of documented evidence, I confronted David. I sat him down and showed him everything: the videos of Linda faking emergencies, the phone records showing obsessive calling patterns, the forged deed documents, the proof that my affair was actually medical appointments, the fake neighbor who didn't exist. David watched in horror as I presented proof that his mother had been systematically lying to him for 3 years. He saw a video of Linda standing up perfectly fine after calling him claiming she couldn't move. He saw the forged signature that didn't match my handwriting. He saw the cafe footage proving Dr. Stevens was my oncologist, not a lover. David broke down crying. "She's my mother." "Why would she do this?" "Because she wants to control you," I explained. "After your father died, she decided you belonged to her, not to me. She's been working to destroy our marriage so she could have you back under her control completely." David immediately withdrew the divorce filing. Then we went on the offensive legally. We filed a police report for forgery and fraud regarding the house deed. We filed a civil lawsuit to recover our house and for emotional distress. We obtained a restraining order against Linda requiring her to stay away from both of us and cease all contact. The criminal investigation moved quickly because the evidence was overwhelming. The forged signature was obvious. The deed Linda filed contradicted what she'd told David verbally. She'd committed clear fraud to steal property worth $400,000. Linda was arrested at her home 3 weeks later. She was charged with forgery, fraud, grand theft, and elder abuse. Because defrauding family members over 60 qualifies as elder abuse in Colorado. Linda's lawyer tried to claim she'd made an honest mistake, and David had authorized the house transfer. But I had recordings of Linda explicitly telling David the transfer was temporary, while the deed she filed made it permanent. The jury convicted her on all charges. The judge sentenced Linda to 4 years in state prison, plus restitution of all legal costs. "Mrs. Matthews," the judge said, "you systematically lied to your son, forged documents, and attempted to steal your daughter-in-law's home while she was battling cancer. Your behavior was cruel, calculated, and criminal." The civil court reversed the house transfer immediately and returned full ownership to David and me jointly. We also won damages for emotional distress and legal fees totaling $80,000, which Linda will have to pay after her release from prison. Linda is now 2 years into her 4-year sentence. She's 71 years old and will be 73 when released. She lost her relationship with David permanently. He hasn't visited or contacted her since her arrest. She lost her relationship with her granddaughters, who refused to speak to her after learning what she did to their mother during cancer treatment. She lost her freedom, her reputation, and her family. David and I are rebuilding our marriage. It's been hard. Linda's manipulation created deep wounds and trust issues that we're working through in therapy. But we're committed to healing together. David has had to accept that his mother is a manipulative person who prioritized control over his happiness. That realization devastated him, but it also freed him from her influence. I'm now cancer-free for 18 months. Surviving cancer was hard enough without Linda's interference making it worse. Looking back, I'm grateful for my private investigation skills. Without them, Linda might have succeeded in destroying my marriage and stealing my house. Instead, she's in prison and David and I are together. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty about sending my husband's elderly mother to prison. The answer is absolutely not. Linda forged documents, committed fraud, and tried to destroy my marriage while I was fighting cancer. She faked medical emergencies for 3 years to manipulate her son. She fabricated an affair that never happened. She stole our house through forgery. She deserves every day of that sentence. I'm 58 years old, a cancer survivor, a private investigator with 30 years of experience, and a wife who fought back when someone tried to destroy her marriage. Linda thought she was smarter than me. She thought grief and cancer had made me weak and vulnerable. She learned that 30 years of investigative experience doesn't disappear during chemotherapy. Linda gambled that I wouldn't catch her lies and fraud. She lost everything because she underestimated me. The mother-in-law who spent 3 years trying to destroy my marriage is now in prison. My marriage is healing. My house is secure. And Linda will spend the rest of her life knowing that the daughter-in-law she tried to destroy was the one who caught her and made her pay for everything. The end.